On this episode of Doing the Most, we're making alcoholic tepache. Two ways.
Homemade brews and various how-tos, everything from mead to roast, big creation, fermentation, inebriation, doing the most.
We've been making alcoholic tepache for a while. It even makes a little cameo appearance in one of our earliest Doing the Most videos. So we figured it's probably time to publish our recipe and methods. The honey we used for this batch was coffee blossom honey, and we know you probably don't have access to that. Any kind of rich, flavorful, but also kind of neutral honey will work in this recipe. Traditionally, tepache is a sparkling beverage made with pineapple skins and piloncillo. Our version is going to be a little bit boozy, clocking in at about 6% alcohol. We're going to use pineapples, piloncillo, and honey, so technically this is a mead. The ingredients for this 2-gallon batch of alcoholic tepache are 2 chopped up pineapples with the peels, 1 pound of piloncillo crushed, 1 pound of honey, and a white wine yeast, then water to 2.25 gallons. In secondary, we're going to split that into 2 1-gallon batches. Both will be sweetened with 7/8 cups of erythritol, and one will get a dried hot pepper for 24 to 48 hours. We begin by weighing out our honey and putting it into the fermenter. We're using the Mr. Beer kit here, but you could use a 3-gallon or larger brewing bucket. Now let me reiterate, you will want to use a bucket for this. We used a Mr. Beer kit, but a lot of you may not have that on hand. But you're really gonna want open access to all of that fruit that's inside of there, so that way you can get it racked off and get the fruit removed. Trying to stuff that much fruit into a carboy neck is just a really bad idea. And then we're taking the tops and bottoms off of each of our pineapples and cutting them into thin rings. The entirety of that fruit, skins and all, goes right into the fermenter. Then we unwrap our piloncillo, which is kind of a brown sugar type of sugarcane product. Put it into a Ziploc bag and get out our trusty hammer to smash it to bits. No beginner brewing kit is complete without a hammer to smash up your ingredients. So the piloncillo goes into our fermenter, and we top that up with 2.25 gallons of water. I gave it a gentle shake, but didn't mix it up too much. It'll all dissolve. And then I'm going to use Premier Blanc white wine yeast. Now you probably noticed we didn't wash or sanitize the pineapples. That's because tepache's flavor is heavily dependent on the microbes that live on the pineapple skins. And be forewarned, every batch of tepache turns out just a little bit different from the last. That's because the set of microbes living on the pineapples is always just a little bit different. We are going to get some of that tepache funk in here, but also we're going to get a relatively crisp ferment by using that white wine yeast. Any wine yeast should work well in this. QA23 would actually be a good choice because of the fruity tropical esters it produces, but I wanted a clean fermenting white wine yeast for this. Yeast goes right in, shake it up, and put it away for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, it should be fermented completely dry, and time to rack it off into secondary. It's important to fill your secondary container from the bottom up. This minimizes oxygen exposure. The Mr. Beer kit is not well set up for this, but if you're racking from a bucket, you're good to go. We are back sweetening this tepache with erythritol. Erythritol is a non-fermentable sweetener that comes from plants. It is technically a sugar alcohol, but what that means is that yeast can't eat it, so we can sweeten with this and then bottle condition with fermentable sugar. To back sweeten, I added 7/8 cup of erythritol, so just under 1 cup. And that amount goes into both of our 1-gallon jugs. And then I just used the bottling wand to fill both jugs from the bottom, again to minimize air exposure. As you can see, the pineapple had given up all it had and had turned kind of brownish white. Those will go right into the compost bin. And then I gave both of these jugs a good stir to mix in the erythritol, and then we're going to let those sit for a couple of days. Tepache traditionally is a quick drinking beverage, so it only ferments just long enough to get some sparkle to it. So I'm not super concerned about clarity on these, even though I know they'll probably clear in the bottle. During this 1-day rest, I am adding to one of these batches a super hot pepper. This is a ghost pepper. I split in half, it is dried, and that's just going to go in to give one of our 1-gallon batches a little bit of spice. If you wanted to, you could spice the other batch with a little bit of cinnamon and clove, as would be traditional. Then I bottled these with some carbonation drops in the bottom. Carbonation drops are made of dextrose and are fermentable, so we'll get some sparkle in these bottles. And then they need to go away for 2 to 3 weeks to bottle condition. We bottle conditioned our tepache by using carbonation drops. They're little pre-measured dosages of dextrose. You could also bottle condition by mixing priming sugar, using a priming sugar calculator, into a bucket and then racking on that, and then bottling from that bucket to make sure all of your priming sugars are mixed thoroughly throughout the batch before bottling. We really prefer these carbonation drops because they're so darn simple. Bottle conditioning takes 2 to 3 weeks. The yeast will produce carbon dioxide, which will then hang out in suspension and carbonate these bottles. Now I know this is quite a bit different from common methods of making tepache, including because it's a fairly alcoholic version at about 6% alcohol. And I should preface this by also saying this is a lot like an agua fresca. Sometimes when folks who've not had tepache see and hear about it, they really think that it's going to be a heavy, fruity, pineapple-y kind of treat. But remember, traditionally it's made from just the pineapple skins, so there's not a whole lot of pineapple flavor there. Our version brings some of that pineapple flavor forward without being kind of a punch to the mouth of tropical flavor. So we bottled 2 different versions, a spicy version and a more traditional version. And traditionally, a lot of times it will be spiced with cinnamon and clove. So you could choose to do that in the glass, maybe rim your glass with a little bit of cinnamon sugar, or just have it plain. Both of these bottle conditioned for about 2 weeks, and as you can see, they have a lovely delicate head and a nice crispy sparkle to them. You can't taste the alcohol in these at all, and the more traditional version has a nice delicate pineapple flavor, and that honey brings a nice richness across the palate. The spicier version is definitely for the more adventurous tepache drinkers out there and has a nice rolling heat that runs around your palate and then washes down your throat. Just cleanse my palate. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you'll make your own version of alcoholic tepache. I think it's really simple and I love the quick turnaround on it. If you like this video, please hit subscribe and ring that bell if you'd like to see more recipes like this. You can follow us on Instagram and Pinterest at doingthemostok. Our website's doingthemost.org, and you can check us out on Twitch at doingthemostok. We also have a Discord server at discord.doingthemost.org. Until next time, happy brewing and cheers.